representatives of different nations will join a climate summit this Thursday, organized as a virtual meeting on Earth Day. India reported a new record in the number of coronavirus cases and fatalities over the last 24 hours. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has reiterated that the only international nuclear deal valid for Iran is the one agreed upon in 2015. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. 40 representatives of different nations will join a climate summit this Thursday, organized as a virtual meeting on Earth Day. The summit will serve as a prelude to the United Nations Climate Change Conference in November. Russian President Vladimir Putin, Chinese President Xi Jinping, and Pope Francis are among the expected participants. Following the climate change denial of the Trump administration, U.S. President Joe Biden formally pledged that the United States will cut its emissions by at least half from 2005 levels by 2030. However, Biden faces the Republican Party critics of the measure. Meanwhile, Chinese President Xi Jinping promised his nation will reduce its emission by the end of this decade and reach carbon neutrality by 2060. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi reiterated his promise of installing 450 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2030. Japan announced that it will cut emissions by 46% below 2013 levels by the end of the decade. However, its environmental pledges have been undermined following last week's announcement of the planned dumping of wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the Pacific Ocean. And every April 22nd, the United Nations celebrates International Mother Earth Day to raise awareness about climate change and the impact of human activity on the nature. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres offered a message to mark the day, calling for the action.
The impact of the crisis has been particularly devastating for women, children, and the most vulnerable sectors of our societies. Today, the vaccine launch has generated hope. We have taken important steps in creating the COVAX mechanism, and a growing list of countries are receiving the first vaccine through it. But I am deeply concerned that many low-income countries have not received a single dose, while the richest countries are on their way to vaccinating their entire populations. If this dangerous trend of vaccine nationalism and side deals continues, vaccination in developing countries could take years, further delaying the global recovery.
And the U.S. President Joe Biden offered the opening statements in the International Climate Summit, saying climate action is a moral and economic imperative. During his remarks, Biden also pledged to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 50 to 52% by 2030 compared to 2005 levels.
It's the decisive decade. This is the decade we must make decisions that will avoid the worst consequences of the climate crisis. We must. So let's run that race. Win more sustainable future than we have now. Overcome the existential crisis of our times. We know just how critically important that is. I see an opportunity to create millions of good-paying, middle-class union jobs. Thank you for being part of this summit. Thank you for the communities that you and the commitments you have made and the communities you're from. God bless you all. I look forward to progress that we can make together today and beyond. We really have no choice. We have to get this done. I talk to the experts and I see the potential for a more prosperous and equitable future. The signs are unmistakable. The science is undeniable. But the cost of inaction keeps mounting. We have to take action, all of us. And this summit is our first step on the road we'll travel together, God willing, all of us, to and through Glasgow this November and the UN Climate Change Conference.
As part of a speech to the Ibero-American Summit, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel highlighted the technological and scientific advances in Cuba, which have allowed the country to develop 5 COVID-19 vaccine candidates, 2 of which are in phase 3 clinical trials.
Science and technological innovation system, with an advanced and efficient pharmaceutical industry, allied to the universal, free, and quality healthcare system with highly trained human resources, have made possible Cuba's response to the pandemic. A little more than a year after the first cases of COVID-19 were detected in the country, we have 5 vaccine candidates, 2 of them, Soberana 02 and Abdala, in phase 3 clinical trials, and we hope to immunize the entire Cuban population before the end of 2021 with our own vaccines.
On speaking during the Ibero-American Summit, Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez stressed that the bloc offers a unique opportunity to achieve great things.
Ibero-American community, that we have a great space to do better, that we have a great opportunity, I believe, here in this Ibero-American community, where there are 2 countries that are victims of a criminal blockade, victims of coercive, unilateral, illegal measures. A lot can be done. All bridges can be built. All kinds of spaces for communication, for dialogue can be opened.
Bolivian President Luis Arce called on the World Trade Organization and the World Intellectual Property Organization to work for a prompt modification of intellectual property rights in the face of the need to manufacture COVID-19 vaccines across the globe.
Must be at the service of the human being, without any type of geographical, political, or social discrimination, and the access to vaccines must be seen as a human right. For that reason, pharmaceutical companies and governments must maintain sincere cooperation and implement the dissemination of their knowledge and technology, so that by working together we can guarantee immediate and timely access to vaccines for the most vulnerable people.
And Mexican Foreign Secretary Marcelo Ebrard highlighted the unequal access of developing countries to vaccines against COVID-19 and praised the efforts of Latin American countries like Cuba to produce their own vaccine candidates.
What we have agreed is that in order not to repeat the same situation, we need capacity, the mobilization of resources, perseverance, will, and, in essence, resolve, because we have the resources to do it, to develop and conclude the phase 3 trials of the previously mentioned vaccines, and we can give preference in the procurement portfolio of our countries to these vaccines to strengthen our ability to respond promptly and effectively to the challenge that we have experienced in recent months.
In this context, President of Venezuela Nicolás Maduro Moros praised the intervention of Vice President Delcy Rodriguez for denouncing the blockade of $2 billion of Venezuelan funds in Portuguese banks, reiterating the allegations about the economic war against Venezuela.
A virtual summit, it brought the great issues of Venezuela, the great issues of the moment. I want to congratulate the Executive Vice President for having been as clear as ever, so forceful in defending the interests of Venezuelan men and women. She denounced the process of monopolization, hoarding, and speculation with the prices of vaccines in the international market. Vaccines have been turned into merchandise for speculation, for domination, for war. She denounced the unilateral coercive measures and the oil, economic and financial war against Venezuela, and how Venezuela is moving forward. The year 2021 is the year of life, of Carabobo and its recovery. She demanded that some governments of Europe, among them Portugal, assert their authority and return the $2 billion that they have sequestered in Portugal, in the Bank of Portugal.
Likewise, the Venezuelan president stressed as an important achievement for the Bolivarian people the agreements recently signed with the executive director of the World Food Programme, David Beasley, to develop food programs at schools in the South American country.
I play a constitutional president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Stamp my signature on the official agreement with the executive director of the World Food Programme, David Beasley. That's pronounced the surname, right? David Beasley. This program has received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2020 from a great global experience to help people. We signed an agreement to take a first step in a ambitious and comprehensive plan. A first step, Loyal Minister Tallaria, Food Minister Aristobal Isturi, that is not listening. The first step is to bring the experience of the World Food Programme to the initial school of Venezuela.
Also, the President Nicolás Maduro Moros explained that the agreements reached with the World Food Programme will help to perfect the food security system of the Venezuelan people.
Venezuela needs the support of the World Food Program, and what do we need the support for? To perfect the food system of security and sovereignty of the people of Venezuela, to improve it, to reach with protein, quality and nutrients to all. That is why we agreed to sign this free agreement to provide food assistance to initial schools.
And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. India has reported more than 300,000 coronavirus cases over the last 24 hours, the highest daily global total, while the latest figure for COVID-19 related fatalities also establishes a new record. According to Health Ministry data, the daily jump of more than 314,000 cases on Thursday surpasses the previous highest one-day rise in the world of over 290,000 cases registered by the United States in January. According to the government, more than two-thirds of hospitals have no vacant beds, and notices have been issued warning that of critically low supplies of medical oxygen required to keep COVID-19 patients alive. India has now reported a total of over 15.9 million cases, the world's second highest. Meanwhile, COVID-19 related fatalities rose by over 2,000 on Thursday to reach a total of more than 180,000. The United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean stated on Wednesday that projected economic growth in the region in 2021 will not offset the losses incurred in 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic or rollback increases in poverty and inequality.
Economic growth is expected in the coming years, which will make job recovery very difficult and will make it also difficult to overcome informality, which in the region sums more than 54% of work, and reverse the increase in poverty and extreme poverty. The persistence of the pandemic and the fragility of the economic recovery process make it necessary to extend these fiscal measures over 2021 and perhaps even 2022.
The Director General of the World Health Organization maintains his interest in implementing the massive use of Sputnik V vaccine globally. On Wednesday, at a meeting held in Geneva, the Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom, expressed his interest in the general use of the Russian Sputnik V vaccine, according to a statement published by the Russian Chancellery. Adhanom met with Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Vershinin, where highlighted Moscow's significant contribution to multilateral cooperation. In Chile, more than 6,000 port workers were paralyzed throughout the country in protest against the government of Sebastián Piñera after requesting the Constitutional Court to prevent the withdrawal of retirement funds to face the health and economic crisis that the country is experiencing. The strike, called by the Port Union of Chile, took place in 17 ports of this nation. In turn, the International Dock Workers Council for Latin America and the Caribbean, port organization comprising 100% of unionized workers from the South American Atlantic coast, announced a progressive strike in Chile with worldwide incidents that threatens to block cargo from this southern country in support of the Chilean people for resorting to retirement to survive the ravages of the pandemic. On Thursday, the National Emergency Management Organization of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, NEMO, confirmed another explosive event at La Soufrière volcano. The monitoring agency for earthquakes, volcanoes and tsunamis in Eastern Caribbean indicates the plume has risen to above 8 kilometers into the atmosphere, and most of the material seems to be going out to the sea. The organization also warned that mud flows of La Soufrière can go on for a very long time, according to lead scientist Professor Richard Robertson's forecast. And we remain in topic. The arrival of supplies and humanitarian aid to St. Vincent and the Grenadines continues in the framework of the international assistance provided to the island by various countries in the region due to the constant eruptions of the volcano La Soufriere. On Wednesday, 28 tons of water and medical team of 6 specialists from Cuba arrived on the island. The government of St. Lucia also sent a shipment of 20 tons of water tanks to contribute to the storage of the precious liquid in St. Vincent.
To respond to this situation, this disaster situation here, because we have already 2 problems. We have the COVID still on our hands, and also we have the response that we have to do for the volcanic eruption. So Cuba has sent us doctors and medicines and equipment with respect to those specialities, and we have also supplies from them and from St. Lucia. So we thank the Cubans, we thank the St. Lucians, we thank the Venezuelans on this triple level of solidarity to St. Vincent.
This is a modest contribution of the people of Cuba to the broader people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As the ambassador of Venezuela has explained, it was an operation of Caribbean Brotherhood, in which the comrades of St. Lucia, the base of the Venezuelan ship, and the help sent by the government and the Cuban people have participated. We are welcoming 6 health specialists who come to strengthen the work of the medical brigade that is here. We're also making a donation of water tanks, buckets and other items that will help the people of St. Vincent. We have been present before the eruption of the La Soufriere volcano, providing medical assistance, and we will continue to be here. It is our way of being consistent with our liberators, with the spirit of solidarity of Bolivar, of the Latin American heroes of Sucre, Chatelier, Martí, Chavez and Fidel. As our army generals say, the Caribbean and the brother people of St. Vincent, as well as their government, can always count on Cuba.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The only international nuclear deal valid for Iran is the one agreed upon in 2015. Iran President Hassan Rouhani has reiterated. No one wants less and not one more in the pact, the president stressed, in response to Washington's initiatives to renegotiate the deal in order to include new concessions from the Islamic Republic. Rouhani said it is clear to Europe and other countries that the only solution to the current crisis is the full implementation of the original Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, from which the United States unilaterally withdrew in 2018. It is for Washington to take the first step, return to the agreement and reverse the battery of sanctions against Iran, the president said. In the context of ongoing negotiations in Vienna seeking to bring the U.S. back to the deal, Iran has warned that only after all illegal sanctions are lifted will it reciprocate by reducing its uranium enrichment program to the limits established in the accord. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad will seek the re-election in the presidential vote scheduled for May 26. Syrian Parliament Speaker Hamouda Youssef Sabah announced that as well as al-Assad, 5 other candidates have so far applied to be approved by the parliament to contest in the upcoming elections. Among them is Faten Ali Nahar, the first ever woman nominated for the post. To become a presidential candidate, Syrian law demands that applicants must gather support from at least 36 of the 250 members of parliament. The country is preparing to hold the election in the midst of continued foreign intervention, aerial bombardments by Israel, terrorism by armed groups, and economic sanctions promoted by the United States and its allies. In southwestern Pakistan, at least 5 people were killed and 1,000 others when a bomb exploded at a top hotel hosting the Chinese ambassador. Officials said that no group immediately claimed responsibility for this attack. The blast took place in the car park of the Serena, a luxury hotel chain throughout Pakistan, in the city of Quetta, the capital of Balochistan province, where the military has been fighting a decade-long low-level insurgency. In June, Baloch insurgents targeted the Pakistan Stock Exchange, which is partly owned by Chinese companies. That attack was claimed by the Balochistan Liberation Army.
Only five-star hotel in Quetta where guests stayed, but there was no ambassador or delegation at the time of the blast.
And they have attacked a private university in Nigeria's northern Kaduna state, killing one staff member and kidnapping some students, police and officials said on Wednesday. It was not immediately clear how many students had been abducted from Greenfield University during the Tuesday night attack, and one official said they were still conducting a head count. Two officials at the university said at least 20 students were still missing. It was unclear how many had been taken by gunmen or may have fled the attack. The Greenfield University attack was the fifth kidnapping assault on a Nigerian school or college since December.
School management and security agencies on the ground inform Kaduna State government that a staff of the university was killed here, and some students were also kidnapped.
While the world is focusing on the COVID-19 pandemic, malaria keeps killing children in Africa. The World Health Organization has administered over 1.7 million doses of malaria vaccine to some 650,000 children in Ghana, Kenya, and Malawi. The number of children cared for indicates strong community demand for the vaccine, the UN Health Agency said. Dr. Catherine O'Brien, director of the WHO's Immunization, Vaccines and Biologics departments, detailed that the cases of Ghana, Kenya and Malawi prove that existing childhood vaccination platforms can effectively save lives. Millions of poor families in Africa don't have access to malaria prevention measures. The vaccine, the FTS, is the first and only certified vaccine to fight malaria in children, reducing hospital admissions and the need for blood transfusions. The Indonesian National Search and Rescue Agency has deployed vessels to help in the search operation for an Indonesian Navy submarine with 52 crew members aboard after contact was lost with the vessel off the coast of Bali. The submarine was scheduled to conduct live torpedo exercises as part of naval drills when it asked for permission to dive early Wednesday morning, authorities said. They also said that a helicopter looking for the missing vessel spotted an oil spill in waters where the submarine was thought to have submerged. The Navy stated that it had not pinpointed the exact location of the submarine, but had narrowed down the search based on the spill. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us and follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.